everyone. Let's get started by making sure our electronic devices are turned off or silenced. I'll go ahead and give you a minute to do that. Give them a quick check while we settle in and get comfortable. Good morning. I am Christy Ging. My pronouns are she and they, and I will be your service leader today. On behalf of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Pensacola, it is my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to our members, friends, and visitors. Whether this is your first time with us or you're a long-time part of our congregation, whether you're gathered here in person or watching us online, we are so grateful that you've chosen to be here with us today. And earlier I mentioned that I'd be your service leader, and some of you might be wondering what that is. Well, UUCP is a lay-led congregation, and that means that our Sunday services are not conducted by professional clergy, but instead they're organized and facilitated by members of our community, like me and like all of you. And from week to week, the Sunday service topics, themes, speakers, and participants change so that no two are ever exactly alike. One Sunday, we might have a guest speaker sharing their expertise and teaching us about their organization. Another Sunday could feature a musical performance or a community discussion. Or it could be like today, where we feature a personal reflection from a longtime UUC member. So if today's service or message does not resonate with you, I really encourage you to return. The beauty of this format is that next week's service will be entirely different. And if you're wondering how you can find out who these different speakers are and what the different topics will be from week to week, well, we have a couple of options for you. One option is our website, which you can see. There should be, yeah? There we go, that one right there, okay. So that address right there is regularly updated with information about upcoming services, and it's just a great resource for all kinds of UU information. You can learn about Unitarian Universalism in general, our church specifically, and find out about any upcoming events and how to get involved with our community. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes during the hustle and bustle of the week, we might not have a time to check a website every week. So that brings us to our second option. If you did not see them when you first came in today, you will find pamphlets and guest information cards in the foyer. The pamphlet is a nice synopsis of some information about our church, but I would ask you to pay special attention to the guest information cards. That information on the website that I mentioned you might be too busy to check on the website for, well, if you fill out a card, you can receive those details directly in your email inbox and always be in the loop. So please take a moment to fill the card out and return it to us. But I think our third option is the absolute best resource for newcomers and visitors, and that would be our established members and friends. And we have an excellent opportunity for you to connect with them. After the service, we invite you to join us in the conference room for some refreshments and conversation. It's a great way to meet others, ask questions, and get a better sense of who we are and what we're about. And speaking of learning things from our fellow congregants, I have quite a few announcements from some of them about upcoming events and opportunities to get involved. Oh, this one's good. I always look forward to these. It's a poem for Sunday Sweets. Okay, so we have Sunday Sweets today, and that is a fundraiser that we do once a month. And bring your money, buy baked goods, buy church members, and if it's your first time visiting here, you get one for free. But I have to share the poem. It's the first Sunday Sweets of a brand new year, so get in line, the cakes are here. Thanks to all of you for buying our wares. A few extra calories, who cares? Love it. Okay, and today we will have the first meeting of a community-centered healing group, and that's going to be taking place in the sanctuary at 11:30. That'll be with Felipe Munoz and Denise Gunn, and everyone's welcome. They say across cultures and history, healing has emerged through presence, intention, and connection to something greater. And so they will be teaching us about the healing power of insights into the nervous system and feeling seen, supported, and regulated. So if you want to do that, again, that's going to be in the sanctuary at 11:30. And for the Long-Term Planning Committee, we invite you to help share UUCP's future. The Long-Term Planning Committee is excited to announce a series of 10 listening sessions to gather your input on our church's 5-year plan. So these are going to be happening 2 times a month in the library. We just want your feedback so we can work on our 5-year plan. We've already had 2 of them. We're going to be having one today, and there will be one next Sunday as well. If you have any questions about that, please see Brett if you have any questions or would like to see some of the information we have. All right, so next Monday, January 19th, is the 36th annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day parade. And the theme will be unity. With unity, we won't turn back. So UUCP has been participating in this since 1987. And we want to thank Daniel Cobb for volunteering his truck and trailer for our float. And if you'd like to participate, we need walkers and throwers. We'll also decorate the trailer after next Sunday's service. If you have any questions, see Joe Vinson.
All right.
All right. So, do you like to help people who are in need? Do you have about 30 minutes per month to help? We need someone to deliver our food donations to the Manna Food Bank once per month. Patty Underwood has been doing this job for years, but is no longer able. See Lauren for details. I think that's it. All right, so if you have any questions about any of those things or want any more details, just come see me after the service, and I will point you in the right direction. Okay. Oh. Okay. So lunch bunch on Wednesday at 1 o'clock at Wacko over on 9th Avenue. Okay. And that information should be in the light as well. Okay. All right. Any more? So if there's any questions about that, see me after the service and I will point you to the people who have all of this information. Okay. So as we conclude our announcement, let's take a moment to slow down, take some deep breaths, and ground ourselves. While we settle into this mindful moment, let's enjoy some centering music from our musicians. Thank you, musicians. Laura, would you mind joining me? Let us gather in the spirit of community and light our chalice with words from Deborah Falk. A chalice lit in our midst is a symbol of our liberal faith, a faith built on the foundation of freedom, reason, and tolerance, a faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice, a faith that visions a world flourishing with equality for all its people, a faith that demands the living out of goodness, a faith that requires thoughtfulness, a faith of wholeness. This tiny flame is the symbol of the spark of all this within each of us. Today's opening words come from UU minister Reverend Kathleen McTeague and scholar Warren Copeland. It takes a lot of faith and is often pretty scary to believe in a persuasive love as the most powerful force in reality. But love is the only hope we are finally left with. Those who believe that justice is a higher purpose and who are courageous enough to put their lives at risk for justice and smart enough to do so with some strategy and with love can in fact make the world more just. Moral imagination is the capacity to imagine something rooted in love and justice, even when we are surrounded by fear and injustice. Would the choir please join us on stage for our opening song? And while the choir joins us on stage, I invite the congregation to rise as you are able to join the choir in singing number 298, Wake Now My Senses, which you will find in the gray hymnal. Also, please remain standing after we finish singing to recite our covenant. Okay, so we'll please remain standing as we recite our covenant together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. You may be seated. And Laura will join me. Now is the time we share our joys, concerns, or sorrows with our UUCP family. This part of the service is not recorded or shared online, so anything you share will remain within the confines of these walls. If you feel called to speak, please join us at the front of the sanctuary and line up on either side. When you are handed the microphone, give your name and briefly share with us your joy, concern, or sorrow. Together we will light the first candle to acknowledge all the pain and sorrow around the world. And after everyone has spoken, we will conclude by lighting one candle for those joys and concerns that remain in our hearts but are unspoken. Okay, it is now time for all ages. Today's story is a retelling of a Palestinian folktale about a little pot that comes to life but needs to be taught the difference between right and wrong.
Hi, this one is called Tunjur, 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 a Palestinian folktale. Retold by Margaret Reed MacDonald. Illustrated by Alik Arzumanian. There once was a woman who had no children. She prayed to Allah, "I would love a child, even if it is nothing more than a cooking pot." Voila! She had a child, and it was a little pot. At once, the little pot began to hop up and down. "Mama, mama, mama, I love you, love you, love you." "Oh my," said the woman, "I have a little pot for a child, but she loves me. I will take good care of her." Every day while her mother worked, little pot would roll around, banging against the walls. What a sound she made! Tunjur, tunjur, tunjur. One day, little pot said to her mother, "Mama, mama, mama, I want to go to market, market, market." "No, little pot," said her mother, "not by yourself. You aren't old enough to know right from wrong." "I know how to behave. Let me go, let me go, let me go." At last her mother agreed. "You have to go out by yourself someday. Perhaps I should let you go now." Tunjur, tunjur, tunjur. Down one street she rolled and up another till she came to the rich man's shop. "What a beautiful little pot," said the rich man. "I'll take this pot home to my wife. I know, I'll have the pot filled with honey." Yum, thought little pot. I love honey. The rich man's wife was delighted. "We'll have honey for supper." "No, they won't," thought little pot. "I'll keep it myself." And she held her lid shut tight. The wife pulled. The wife pushed. "Husband, come help. This lid is stuck." The husband pulled. The husband pushed. He could not get the lid off the pot. "This pot is no good. I am sorry I brought it into the house." And he threw the pot out the window. Little pot jumped up and rolled home. "Tunjur, tunjur, tunjur. My mouth is full of nummy. Tunjur, tunjur, tunjur. I'm taking my mama honey. Mama, mama, pick me up. Mama, mama, open me." "Oh, little pot, you are bringing me honey. The honey seller must have sent it as a gift. How kind of him." Little pot said nothing at all. Next day, "Mama, mama, mama, I want to go to market, market, market." "Oh, little pot, I don't know. Are you sure you are old enough to know right from wrong?" "I know how to behave. Let me go to market." So the mother opened the door, and off rolled the little pot, tunjur, 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 past the market, all the way to the king's palace. "Look at this little pot," cried the king. "My wife will like this." "Thank you, husband. What a great place to keep my jewels." The queen took off her bracelets and put them in the pot. She took off her rings and put them in the pot. Then she put on the lid. That evening, the queen reached for the little pot to take out her jewels. Voila! The pot's lid was stuck. The queen pulled. The queen pushed. "Husband, would you take the lid off this pot?" The king pulled. The king pushed. The lid would not come off. "I'm sorry I brought this pot into the house. I won't have it here another minute." And the king threw the pot out the window. "Wait, my jewels are inside. Stop that pot." But little pot was rolling off home. "Tunjur, tunjur, tunjur. My mouth is full of jewels. Tunjur, tunjur, tunjur. The king and queen are fools. Mama, mama, pick me up. Mama, mama, open me." Her mother picked up the little pot. She took off her lid. Oh no, little pot. No one has given you these. You have been taking things that are not yours. Tomorrow we will take these things back. That night, little pot's mother went to bed so sad. So sad. Next morning, little pot got up before her mother was awake. Tunjur, tunjur, tunjur. She rolled right to the marketplace.
Let's see what good things I get today.
She hadn't long to wait. Here came the rich merchant. This is the little pot that stole my honey. I'll take this pot to the king. We cannot have little pots running around taking things that do not belong to them. The king jumped up at once. Wife, isn't this the little pot that carried off your jewels? That is the very pot. This little pot should have a just reward, said the king. Take it to the goat pen and fill it full of what it deserves. The little pot was so excited.
I'm gonna get a reward.
But plop, in came a shovelful of muck. Then plop, 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 the little pot was filled with yuck. Off she ran home.
Tunjur, tunjur, tunjur. I want my mama, mama. Tunjur, tunjur, tunjur. My mouth is full of nya, nya. Mama, mama, pick me up. Mama, mama, open me.
Ooh, little pot, you smell. Someone caught you stealing. Little pot, I hope you've learned your lesson. You cannot take things that do not belong to you. After that, little pot did not go out alone for a long, long time. Not until she was old enough to know the difference between right and wrong. And that's the end. Hope you liked it.
Let's see if they're ready. We have any kids? Oh, there's Honor. Okay. So Honor is ready. We now have, this will be the time where we sing the children out. Go now in peace, go now in joy. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. All right. As you may or may not know, UUCP operates solely because of the generosity of our congregation. We receive no outside funding and are fully financed by your charitable donations. Every contribution, whether it is time, talent, or treasure, keeps our doors open and our services and programs thriving. Our ushers will now pass around baskets to collect any offerings you may wish to give. And additionally, for your convenience, you can make a donation using the information displayed on the screen behind me. And while the baskets are being passed around, our musicians and choir will perform a song composed by our very own Jimmy Potet. You'll see it at the piano over here. And it's called Stand Up, Speak Up, Don't Be Silent. You can follow along with the words on the screen while we're singing. positions. All right, today's speaker is a longtime member of the UUCP community. In today's message, she will share how the Unitarian Universalist faith provides a framework of shared values that can sustain us all through difficult days. Please welcome Dr. Lauren Anzaldo.
Thank you so much for that beautiful song. That's perfect. And you'll see all of the alignment that comes together. It's so wonderful when everything just fits together perfectly. What are we becoming? Zach Helton asked this question here in an October talk about faith communities in an era of change. You might remember. He told us about the decline in the percentage of Americans who identify as Christian, from 78% of the U.S. adults in 2007 to 62% of adults in 2024. During the same period, the share of U.S. adults who reported no real religion grew from 16% to 23%. Some of us may welcome Christianity's apparent diminishment for a variety of reasons that we won't go into today, but consider that the downward trend overall means that fewer people are participating in religious practice, less likely to attend Sunday services like this one, and less likely to see any sort of religion as important in their life. And we may sit up and take note when we realize that being unaffiliated with any religion or congregation is much more common among people who are socially liberal than among social conservatives. This means that people who start off with progressive viewpoints are missing out on important interactions and formative experiences that could influence the entire course of their lives and our community. The drop in religious participation means that fewer people have shared a communal experience, or considered existential questions, or negotiated with fellow congregants about budgets and church programs. These are vital skills that we need in life. Fewer of us are building a faith life or forming a value system upon which to draw when faced with hard decisions. Fewer of us are engaged in the development of a mythic consciousness, which Zach also talked about. He told us that a mythic consciousness involves seeing the small stories of our lives in the context of a larger cosmic story. That absence of mythic consciousness can affect us deeply, individually and collectively. We are cut off, we atrophy, we lack sustenance. A faith system can sustain us through challenging times by providing us with a way of making sense of the world, a way to order things and find strength. Being a part of a faith community shows us or allows us to see ourselves connected with others inside our congregation, around the nation, and really even around the world, part of a lineage of what came before us, what is here now, and what is yet to come. Without these larger frameworks, my tendency is to concentrate only on me and what I want. Without a shared morality or a sense among us of what is right and wrong, I can lose the awareness that what I do impacts others, and the recognition that my freedom to act stops at the point where my actions harm another person. And we see this, right? We see it so much. We see people all around us who are so self-centered and oblivious to the needs of others and their rights. We can all think of someone like the little pot in the Tunjer story who grabs the jewels and the wealth and all that she can get away with without regard for the shopkeepers in the market and without a twinge of conscience. I have on more than one occasion vented about these things and remarked that I feel that we have lost our values. Then a friend pointed out that it is not that other folks don't have values, but that their values are not the same as mine, not the shared values of Unitarian Universalism. Interdependence, pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, and equity, with love at the center. Valuing money or power or might or dominance, these are shared values. They're just not the values that help us to build a healthy, cohesive society where everyone can prosper. Things get really skewed when we exalt values like might and dominance and loyalty over community values or communal values like love and justice. Things become so upside down that I may actually believe that the only thing that should limit me is my own morality, not laws or principles or values or social mores, but a morality completely of my own design. The journalist and commentator David Brooks recently produced an article titled, "Why Do So Many People Think Trump is Good?" in which he wrote about the loss of a shared morality in this country. Brooks believes that this happened over the last 60 years with the rise of hyper-individualism and moral relativism. He writes, "We've tried to cure the moral vacuum with narcissism, fanaticism, and authoritarianism, and the cure turned out to be worse than the disease." Brooks argues that because of capitalism, people view important choices as though they were aesthetic preferences for a product, rather than serious decisions about right and wrong. And political identity has filled the hole where religious belief once fit. The article continues, "Today we live in a fragmented society made up of individuals who have no conception of the common good, no way to come together to pursue a common good, no way to persuade one another that the common good, whatever it might be. And indeed, most of us believe that the common good does not and cannot really exist." Given the shifts in religious identification that I mentioned at the start of my talk, we may expect to see less religious influence in the public sphere, yet we're seeing much, much more. This is because there's been a political and social backlash to the secularization of the U.S., with an increase in overt assertions of Christian dominance. According to James Wellman, a professor of comparative religion, our culture is in a time of dramatic change, and evangelicals feel under duress. Even with more people identifying with no religion and fewer being Christian, the percentage of Americans who identify as evangelical remained about the same. A quarter of American adults, nearly 50 million people, somewhere in there, call themselves evangelicals, generally meaning that they publicly share their beliefs and try to convert others. And these zealous Christians have been very busy making themselves heard, gaining tremendous power, enormous amounts of money, and outsized influence. Many of them are in charge of our government. The evangelicals in charge are continually melding Christian images and wording with nationalist messages and sometimes violent content depicting might and retribution. You may have seen that several agencies and members of the administration posted openly Christian messages from official U.S. social media accounts on Christmas Day. For instance, the Secretary of State posted a picture of a nativity scene with the words, "The joyous message of Christmas is the gift of eternal life through Jesus Christ." The Department of Homeland Security posted 2 videos on X declaring Christ is born. Christ is born. They declared that the United States is a Christian nation, despite the founders' assertions to the contrary. It's not just the Constitution and separation of church and state that these Christian nationalists are ignoring. They're also ignoring most of the commonly accepted theology around faith, morality, justice, charity, forgiveness, and humility. Much of the stuff of the Christian Bible. A defining aspect of faith typically is that a person's faith is at the core of their being and transcends partisanship. Spiritual practice has historically been bigger than politics. However, religious scholars and believers have been sounding alarms for a few years about what they call MAGA Christianity. Politics and religious dogma have merged to the point that a distinct conservative ideology has replaced Christian values. In many cases, ministers endorse political candidates from the pulpit and directly collaborate on political issues. The president sells his own Bible. The religious framework elevates obedience to authority and nationalism over the traditional Christian values of love, service, and community. A recent Huffington Post article followed several people who've left MAGA Christianity. One former follower said, "If you identified as Christian, you voted for the Republican Party. It was a matter of good and evil, of the side God clearly stood on and the side on which God clearly did not stand." For many of these folks, millions of Americans, hyper-individualism, nationalism, and white supremacy are the same as Christianity, according to the article. Reverend Brandon Robertson, pastor of Sunnydale Reformed Church in New York City, says the blurring of lines has been underway for 50 years, since the religious right started leveraging conservative Christianity to gain political power. They have been remarkably effective in their strategy to conflate their values with Christian orthodoxy and have convinced a considerable number of American Christians that to be a Christian is to support right-wing policies, Robertson said. Powerful and unscrupulous political actors grab onto religion for many reasons. It is useful primarily. Religion is a powerful force, one that is a compelling motivator of human behavior. Religious communities are significant. They are organized and they have infrastructure. They're often tight-knit. Congregations function as social support systems. Congregants rely on one another and they establish expectations of behavior and transmit social norms. Religious leaders also hold positions of unmatched trust and influence. Religious language and images lend legitimacy to political ideology. Opportunists see religion only as a tool to manipulate for their own advantage. Young people are a surprising demographic lately being initiated into right-wing Christianity. The award-winning British writer and journalist Lamorna Ash is the author of the book Don't Forget We're Here Forever, which chronicles her attempt to understand this turn. Ash writes, "Much discourse has been spun about Gen Z's return to religion, often in tandem with suggestions of a broader cultural pivot away from progressive values. Many of the prominent proponents of this supposed Christian revolution, such as Elon Musk, Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate, and comically Richard Dawkins, are very transparently not even Christians themselves. Regardless, they see Western Christian values as a helpful construct to fortify the hierarchies, such as capitalism and patriarchy, that have brought them success," Ash writes. For powermongers, religion is only a construct, a device, or an instrument. There's no real meaning in it, only expedience. They undermine the moral foundations. Therefore, they see no incompatibility between injurious actions and the religious traditions that they invoke. The lack of morals is evident in several recent incidents when leaders have been completely unable to simply assert that harmful actions are wrong. It seems like it's been a lifetime ago, but you might recall that in October, news came out about vulgar texts sent by leaders of young Republican groups making jokes about slavery, rape, and gas chambers. The vice president responded by saying that kids do stupid things. The kids that the VP referred to were young professionals in their 20s and 30s, some who hold elected office and are employed by politicians. Bishop William Barber, a religious leader and activist working in a movement called Our Moral Moment, observed that the issue at play with the text messages was not age or ignorance, but a group of people who, quote, disregard the humanity of their political opponents, a position that has been celebrated and modeled for them by their powerful mentors. In another incident, a popular young conservative influencer named Brett Cooper excoriated Texas Senator Ted Cruz for referring to the far-right commentator Nick Fuentes as a Nazi. Cooper took exception to Senator Cruz's description of Fuentes and chastised Cruz. She said, "People have the right to say what they want, and if you don't like what they say, ignore them." Nick Fuentes is a person who has openly and repeatedly made racist and anti-Semitic statements, such as calling for a need to stop, quote, Jewish gangsters, unquote, from ruining, quote, our Christian country, unquote. When asked on NPR for her reaction to Fuentes' comments, Brett Cooper equivocated, and then she said she does not really believe that Jewish gangsters are controlling the United States, and that she would not condemn anyone either way. And in the ongoing wait for full transparency on the Epstein files, the president's concern was that the photos would be embarrassing to some people, instead of clearly acknowledging that the main problem here is criminal activity and abuse, not an unflattering image. Sex abuse is wrong no matter what political party the perpetrator belongs to. And in more recent news, we have seen the administration unable and unwilling to express any sort of sorrow or appropriate humility in the wake of the killing of Renee Nicole Good, an unarmed woman shot to death by ICE agents in Minneapolis on Wednesday. Vance referred to Good's death as a tragedy of her own making, and the president has slandered Good and made erroneous statements, rather than simply assuring the American people that the details of the case would be fully and transparently investigated. That was never said. To quote the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, the most dangerous criminal may be the man gifted with reason but with no morals. While claiming a religious mandate, these dangerous actors are draining faith and religious practice of its significance and its credibility. How can we tolerate this corruption of what we hold dear? Simply opposing these developments out of economic concerns or how our stocks are affected is just not enough. We need to challenge these trends on moral grounds by clearly drawing the line from which we can then move forward toward a possible new future. To borrow words from a friend's social media post, we cannot call things gray areas necessary or complicated when we need to say what they really are: illegal, irresponsible, wrong. Picking back up on the piece by David Brooks about shared morality, he writes, "Recovering from the moral scourge of Trumpism means restoring the vocabulary that people can use to talk coherently about their moral lives and distinguish a person with character from a person without it." Brooks says we have to talk coherently about our moral lives and be able to distinguish character. I am with him in my agreement that we've fallen down in these tasks. My concern for a long time has been that families like mine, generally well-meaning, open-minded people who support progressive causes, have not taken responsibility for their children's moral education, setting clear boundaries and expectations for behavior, and using real-world experiences as opportunities for discussion and exploration. For at least the last 10 years, we have had some very challenging models and examples of do as I say, not as I do. The events in the public and political sphere have made it harder for parents or anyone to assert that bad behavior has consequences, and I think that has really shaken us. Certainly, parents have plenty to contend with, but few things are more important than the education and upbringing of a child or fostering the soul of a nation. We are often without the tools we need for these kinds of conversations and long-term investments in moral education. I've been thankful for one organization, Parents Together, whose tagline is news and info to help all families thrive. The organization provides regular messages to parents, offering things like tip sheets for talking to kids about current events, information about topics like being safe around prescription drugs or guns in the homes of friends, lists of questions that families can ask each other to build relationships, or quizzes and playlists to learn more about observances like Juneteenth. Frankly, a lot of this stuff is designed for kids of all ages, but it is also a really good refresh for me as an adult too. My understanding of moral relativism is something like this: you do you and I'll do me, detachment. This stands in contrast to a practice that has become a bit of a family joke in our house, but one that I will still stand behind for its intent. As our kids were growing up, as we watched shows or movies together or discussed something that had happened, when an example would come up of someone cheating or bullying another person or causing some form of harm, I would ask the kids, "Now, is that right or wrong?" And invariably the answer was that it was wrong, and then we might talk about what that action was, why it was wrong, and what might be done differently, or what might make up for what had happened. My approach may have been a little simplistic, but it did give us a framework for talking about bigger issues, framed around the golden rule. And it's still something that my kids remember and will teasingly refer to. Now, is that right or wrong? So I count that as a win. I think we just said it last night. Scott was making fun of me at the table, so it hasn't gone away. Taking this sort of idea and building on it in terms of our religious witness, this means that we have to speak up and call out what is happening, even when it gets scary to do so. That looks like saying things such as a person of faith, I cannot condone these sorts of acts, or my faith calls me to speak out for the vulnerable, or as a UU, I recognize that we're all interdependent, so I'm concerned about what's happening there and how it will affect us here too. This moment may be the most imperative moment for us to lean into our faith and reclaim the power of religious witness. We cannot let the far right and opportunistic autocrats define the terms of a false religion devoid of shared morality. The Unitarian Universalist Association asserts, in these searing times of political division, people need a sustaining faith. Our ministry must strike a balance between comforting us with shared ritual and mystical experience and agitating us for what needs to be done here and now for justice. Our sustaining faith gives us shared values to guide us, meaningful stories to inspire us and connect us, and models that link us in the chain of humanity, all sorely needed. As Unitarian Universalists, our faith is expansive. We have a long tradition of moral witness and prophetic voices to draw on. For example, the Sharps, the married couple, Reverend Waitzel Sharp and Martha Sharp, who went to Nazi-occupied Europe in 1940 to rescue Jewish refugees and others targeted by the fascists, and then founded the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, UUSC, which is a humanitarian organization that is our denomination's version of something like Church World Service or Oxfam. Another example is Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, an abolitionist who traveled as a public speaker and writer in support of the anti-slavery cause throughout the 1850s. She helped to found the Ohio State Anti-Slavery Society. Harper was an early advocate for women's rights too, because at the time she broke traditional prohibitions on women speaking and participating in public life. Stories like those of the Sharps and Frances Watkins helped to sustain me. If they who suffered so much could find the strength to bear it and show up as UUs in some of the hardest and most difficult times in our country and some of the hardest places, I can surely do the same with some assistance. We all can. I hope you might find some sustenance here during these searing times. The UU minister Paul Razor reminds us, Universalism's core theological claim is that all humanity, indeed all of creation, is ultimately united in a common destiny. This was the meaning of Universalism's original doctrine of universal salvation. Universalists refuse to divide the world into factions or to exclude anyone. We're all in this together, and wherever we are headed, we will all share in it. Thank you.
She ran away, everyone. I don't know if you saw that, Lauren. You got a standing ovation. Okay. I didn't want her to miss it. Okay. Today's closing words come from the Nobel Prize winning novelist and scholar, Toni Morrison. How do you get through? Sometimes you don't survive whole, you just survive in part. But the grandeur of life is that attempt. It's not about the solution. It's about being as fearless as one can and behaving as beautifully as one can under completely impossible circumstances. Would the choir please join us on stage for our closing song? So I invite the congregation to rise as you are able to join the choir in singing We Shall Be Known. It is not in the hymnals, but we will have the lyrics on the screen, and we're all going to sing it first time around alone, so you can hear what it sounds like, and then we're going to point at you, and you're going to join in after you hear what it sounds like. That sound good? Get on up.
Shall be known
be seated. Okay. We extinguish our chalice with words by Maddie Cephantis. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. Go in peace, go in love, go as you are, and go find out what the baker's made today for Sunday sweets. I hope you have your cash on you, but go do that, okay?